Excuse me. Hello there, and welcome to the Second Life Book Club. My name is Drexter Dupre. I welcome everyone here that is gathered here at Second Life Book Club Island. I'm going to turn the camera around. Let's see who is here. Look at this. This is a pretty full house. Sidearm, please take a seat. There's seats available. Misty Moonbeams, AJ, Kronos, Sidearm, Luca, Francesca, Zek, Remix, Lenny Foxtrot, Strawberry Linden, Gentle Heron is in the back, Noi, Stella Wicks, Quibble, Ashaniti, Dave Logan. Oops, we have a loud noise here from Khan, so I'm going to mute you, Khan. Please don't be offended, but we want to have a good stream. Buffy Beal, Emma, Dave, Peter, Wayomayo, Aloha, Becky Hansen, Leandra Conke. So welcome to the Second Life Book Club. And oh, I missed Fluffy over here. He's away anyway. John, here he's gone. So the Second Life Book Club happens every Wednesday here, and we have a celebrity guest. Celebrity may be the wrong word. I don't know if authors see themselves as celebrity, but we have a panel or a well-known author every first Wednesday of the month, with the exception of this last Wednesday this month because SL Huang, and that's her real name, SL Huang, we'll talk about her a little bit later, will be a guest on the 29th, and she will give away books. She's the author of the Cass Russell series. Now, I want to open up the floor and have a vibrant discussion, and please don't be shy. You can also come up here on stage and sit with me if you want and talk. We'll be using voice and text. Um, I feel it's important to encourage both and not discriminate against one. As you can see, I'm holding a book. Surprise, it's the book club. This book is called The Laughing Buddha Cab Company, and it's by Chris Mooney Singh, who is a poet from Australia who lives in Singapore, very active in the Singaporean slam poetry scene. Now, um, I want to read a little poem to start us off because it is actually National Poetry Month, at least in the US. I know we have a international audience, but the National Poetry Month, I believe, was founded in the mid 90s, and it's obviously a vehicle to promote poetry. And I'm not sure if this happened last week here at the book club, where somebody said, I think Shyla might have said it, she's a poet herself, that poetry, something very short but very dense, can be as meaningful as a big epic. So I'm going to read a short two-page poem by Chris Mooney Singh, and it's called Hotel Room Delhi, 1989. And I think that's a nice way to start us off to see how the written word can sort of conjure up worlds. It's almost like a virtual world that is happening here. Here we go. Hotel Room Delhi, 1989. Chris Mooney Singh. Your room begins with bakshish. Goodbye, bellboy. Leave the bags. Give me a good 6 hours. You nuzzle down inside of sleep on a bed near a dirty bathroom, bed lamp broken, the TV powerless, shaking off airport taxi ride and jet lag for a good long while, and wake from blackness, startled like a fish yanked hard on a hook. Somewhere a radio is reading the news in Puka English. A voice that's been to Oxford and back reports the clash of security forces with militants somewhere in Gurdaspur district at a village deep inside Punjab. That brings the tally to 23 terrorists slain this month, according to a spokesman. Outside, the morning is bowling to children with a cricket hat against a tree in traffic noise where auto rickshaws weave and dodge, screaming like electric parrots. Vegetable wallas ring bicycle bells, and women's voices sell wares door to door for a few rupees. And here comes a big loudspeaker shouting political slogans from a car roof, passing by loudly at the top of its lungs over the soundtrack of filmy songs. Above you, the whirring fan insists all journeys are circular, as if you have returned to a place all quite familiar. The strident sounds repaint a picture seen long before this first day waking up again in India. Just unplug your foreigner's brain and start to dream in Hindi. That was Hotel Room, Delhi, 1989, by Chris Mooney Singh. I can take the book and put it away. Um, Now, it's National Poetry Month, but we are going to talk about a topic as sort of a rough theme. We can talk about absolutely anything, but sort of a rough outline of a theme was suggested by Stella Wicks, who is here in the audience. And I don't know, Stella, if you phrased it that way, um, or if I uh, changed your wording a little bit, but you suggested let's talk about books or reading books that come from another culture or where the culture that is depicted in the book is not yours. Oops, I'm receiving a teleport notice here. Um, so this is the rough theme today. Let's talk about books that we pick up or that get recommended to us that don't where the plot and the characters are not part of our own culture. For example, right now in front of me is a avatar by the name of Soulless Enchantment. Now, obviously, she's not from my own culture because she is floating around, and I obviously don't float around. Okay, so let's be serious. Um, Stella is saying the antagonists get killed off. I kept hoping in each turn. So um, let me just say something here. I have to look at your chat, and so bear with me as the chat windows float by. Um, and you might have to actually retype it. So let me set the stage and then open up the floor. Now, when we talk about other cultures or reading outside of our own culture, I said before off the air that this can also include, of course, a story. And I'm panning back here. The book is right here on the sofa. It's a book called Remembered by Yvonne Battle Felton. And this is about slavery. This is a really, really tough but super important read. This book, Remembered, is about a woman whose mother was a slave, but she was actually kidnapped in the 1840s. She was a free black woman who was kidnapped, which was, really quite an ordinary thing that happened during those days, where free black people were kidnapped and sold off into slavery. This woman was the protagonist in this story was 12 years old when she was um, caught, kidnapped, and sold off into slavery and work on the forced to work on the farm. She was raped, and she had a child, and the child then is the main narrator, and it goes back in time. Um, Now, this book is written in English, which is my second language. It's written by someone roughly from my social stratosphere, but it's not my own culture. So, reading outside your own culture doesn't mean necessarily you have to read something in translation. It can also mean that this is someone from your own um, nationality or somebody who is an immigrant who is writing in your native tongue, but from a completely different vantage point. And this is an example of such a story. I have it here in front of me. You can wiggle it around. Um, what do what do books like that do, or what happens when we read outside of our own culture? This is what I would like to ask people, and anybody can chime in. Solus is asking if you can use voice. Yes, please be mindful not to step on each other. Solus, you are welcome to join me on stage. Anybody can come on stage if you like, but I will be reading text as well. So please chime in text and um, be prepared to repeat it because the text is going by. So Stella put this out um, on the floor as a idea, and gently you're IMing me privately. That's great. Please put it in the local chat, and let me also say that I am compiling for each of these shows a reading list. So if you have a book that fits this bill, so to speak, please email it to slbookclub@dragster.com. It's slbookclub@dragster.com, and I will compile the reading list from there. I will give out the email a couple more times, and also in the context of the question that I will ask at the end of the hour, which is, what are you reading now, and what would you like to read? Because one of the agendas here, or the main agenda, is that I'm convinced I can find a book for you. I will find that book for you. And as a matter of fact, Quibble, we had an interaction in text because I was filming, and Quibble was asking me about books, and I recommended, for example, Kurt Vonnegut, who is, still a master of, I don't know, is it satire? It's speculative fiction with with a satiric bent. If you don't know Kurt Vonnegut, pick up Welcome to the Monkey House, okay, and start there, and then go from there to Slaughterhouse Five and some of the darker ones. But as I'm vamping here, waiting for people to chime in, uh, who wants to chime in about the topic of reading outside your own culture? Stella, you want to take the floor on that since you put this on the table, and I do have your links. You sent wonderful links, but take it away, Stella. And I'm going to grab one of the links that Stella sent me. And who wants to chime in with reading outside your own culture? What have you read, or are you reading, or what were you forced to read?
Dragster, check your chat. Jen just answered your question.
What were you forced to read um, as a as a I don't know, as a student maybe? I cannot look at my private chat. I'm looking at the local because we're streaming this. So please do chime in the text, or use voice at any time, and just rudely interrupt me if you have a story about something that you read outside of your own culture and that influenced you. So I'm camming towards one of the links that Stella sent me, the Nobel Women of Eastern Europe. And this was an article she sent, a blog post on book forum. This is interesting. I was scrolling through it. Um, this is about, out of it says, of the 15 women who have received the Nobel Prize in Literature, six are from Eastern or Central Europe. Now, I scrolled through this and go like, wow, this sounds really cool. I have not read any of them. And then I go towards the bottom, And I do find one book that I did read, and so I want to point this out to you because this is my culture. So this is not your culture if you're from the US or not from Austria or Germany. So this might actually interest you. Um, this is a book called The Piano Teacher by Elfriede Jelinek, and she's from Austria. Now, this is a really, really tough read, and I believe there was a film made of it. Um, I'm not a big fan of films made of books because I feel it flattens my experience, the world that I build in my head. We can talk about that too, if you have another opinion. Now, the piano teacher here, I'm going to just read this. Though remembered for its transgressive sex, Jelinek's novel is more about power. The protagonist is a repressed piano teacher in her 30s, unmarried. She lives with her abusive mother, with whom she has formed a poisonous relationship. When a young, seductive piano student threatens the teacher's carefully wrought truce with her mother, the household's power dynamics dramatically shift. Because the story takes place in the 1980s Vienna, the setting feels luxurious compared to the stifling communist atmospheres of these other authors. But Jelinek is hardly one to tout the benefits of capitalist freedom. Instead, in her protagonist's enslavement to music, she raises the difficult question: who's to blame for the lack of personal freedom and fulfillment in free societies? Jelinek deconstructs gender, age, sexuality, filial piety, and the worship of art, and examines how these forces oppress individuals even within democracies. Now, this is a mouthful, and I see, Gentle, you put it here in local chat. I'll read it in just a second. And Gentle, you're welcome to use voice as well if you like. Um, so the piano teacher. Now, this is a sort of an academic take on it, but it is true. And so my recommendation today is the piano teacher. If you're not from the German or Austrian world, the piano teacher is pretty crazy. So basically this piano teacher sexually abuses her student. Um, and what I found remarkable about this is it's really a tough read. I mean, it was very controversial when it came out. I didn't read it in '83. I read it as I was a teenager then. I read it I think when I was 30 or so. It's a really important read because it is about power. Um, it's not about sex, domestic violence, and sexual harassment is not about sex. It's about power. The Tin Drum Stella says, yes, Günter Grass, the Tin Drum has similar themes. Now, what I found remarkable about the piano teacher, if you're into that sort of thing, if you can stomach um, stuff that is psychologically dense, okay, and and challenging, you should read this because what I found remarkable as a music student, um, and I found it remarkable that here is someone who loves music, which is, a worthwhile pursuit, but who is also just very, very cruel and sadistic. So this is something when I grew up, I always assumed that people with a love for music cannot be tyrants, right? Uh, that's what I thought when I was a teenager. Um, Now that I'm a fully grown adult, I know that a lot of Nazis loved music. Himmler, I think, was playing the violin. There's a book about that too. So uh, that was really striking about this book, and it just really depicts a violent, dysfunctional relationship and how that just gets perpetuated from generation to generation, and it just does not resolve itself. And it's against the backdrop of this super, super high pressure world of performance art. And I mean, you do see that every once in a while in sort of higher circles, certain depravities, if you will, among uh, well-known performers and such, and so that that pressure has something to do with that. I'm sure. Now let's see. Quibble says it's ideas, not relationships, which attract me. So let me read the chat here. And gently, you want to say this in voice, or should I read it?
Go ahead and read it.
If you read it, gentle, please go ahead.
Oh, you want me to read it? Okay, I can do that.
You have a lovely voice, but I gotta turn you down a little bit. It's a little bit hot here. Hold on. And
Okay. Better?
it's better. Go ahead.
Okay, some of you may know that I have a son who's at Beijing University. He's actually been quarantined in his dorm there since early February, so it's a long time. I often get to read things in English that he has read in Chinese, and I have two Chinese authors that I wanted to share today. I recently read two books by Mo Yan. I found both of them somewhat unappealing. The first one was better. It was called Red Sorghum, and it does talk a lot about the agricultural culture in China. I thought that part of that book was pretty well done. Um, his next book was The Republic of Wine. That one won a Nobel Prize. I have no idea why it won a Nobel Prize. I would never have given it one. I found it to be a very confusing book. I don't think that was due to the translation. Sometimes translations can do damage to books. I don't think that was the case with this one. I would not recommend that author based on those two books, but you may want to look at Red Sorghum as a cultural description.
Hmm.
But I would really strongly recommend Cixin Liu. There's a 3-volume set by this author. It's sort of science fiction, futuristic-y. It's also got a lot of philosophy in it, and it talks a lot about human nature, really why human nature and alien natures are probably likely very similar. The first book in the trilogy is The ThreeBody Problem. The second one is called The Dark Forest, and the third one is called Death's End. And those three books I would recommend. They're well translated. They're excellent books. And I think if you would like those, they will definitely stretch your mind. And I'm done.
All right, Gentle. Now, if people know me, they would now think that Gentle and I rehearsed this but I know that Gentle does not know how obsessed I am with the three body problem, how utterly amazing this book is. On the surface, a very suspenseful alien invasion thriller. On deep down, it is just like Gentle said, and I would actually amplify this really a very, very, very deep philosophical examination of what it means to be human at a level that Plato and Aristotle probably would approve. So Xi Liu or Liu Xixing, um, Three Body Problem, The Dark Forest, and Death's End. It's a trilogy. It's incidentally translated partially by Ken Liu, who was the first guest here on the book club. He doesn't like to mention it because he's also I don't know what I mean I don't know, he should be proud of it, but I understand that Ken has probably asked about his translations more than his own work, and Ken is an amazing author, but I digress. So the three body problem is actually a great example, Gentle, of a book that like I said, it's on the surface sort of a sci-fi thriller, but it happens in China, and it starts with the Cultural Revolution in China in the 60s, and it would not be possible to write this in a Western context, I don't think. Not with I mean, again, like you said, the alien cultures and the human cultures here, they turn out to be quite similar, and the book is also about sort of a global unity, defense against the alien invasion. So all these topics come into play, but it's from this Chinese background, steeped in this Chinese history, that is also part of the narrative, because the main protagonists they grew up in the 60s, and some of them were tortured in jail by the communist regime and everything, and so it's steeped in that. So that's a great suggestion. Um, Let me briefly say, and then I'll read more here what's in the chat. We have a book club reading list, and it's on bookshop.org. I'm running the camera, so I can't put put the link in right now. I don't know if Strawberry is present, but the link is bookshop.org/Dragster and you will find today's reading list that I will compile after the show and I will send out in a group notice. So you have all the books that were mentioned here. And I encourage you to please email me the books that you recommend or send them uh, in private message. Oh yeah, AJ, thank you. That's it. Bookshop.org/shop/Dragster You can also send these in private message and then I'll compile it after the show. I just don't want to obscure the stream window too much. God, it's lagging already. Now, Gentle, I want to ask you before I go to Stella. Stella typed and other people have typed here, and I'll read them all. But Gentle, you started off with books that your son recommended that you were not, that you found unappealing. I want to ask you why you found them unappealing. You said that you feel that it wasn't due to the translation, but my question will be, how do you know? If you can't read the original, and then also just a general question, and anybody can chime in. Why did you feel why did you feel it was unappealing? Let me preface this also by saying that sometimes I have this weird obsession that I finish every book, right? I I will finish it, and I'm not saying that everybody has to do that, but I have this sort of internal policy that even if I find a book boring or not well written, if I start it, I will finish it. Because my philosophy is even when it's sort of badly written prose, I'm kind of a snob for good prose, um, I will have learned something from it. Maybe I'll become a writer someday. Who knows? Then I know how how it feels when it's badly written. But also, if it's sort of lagging in pacing, if I find the pacing too slow, I will always assume that the writer may have intentionally slowed the pacing down. I just finished a book and I'm going to cam into it. It's called A Naked Singularity. I picked it up just because of the title, A Naked Singularity here by Sergio de la Pava. And this is 800 or 900 pages even, and it's at times extremely slow because it depicts the grind that a public defender at a public defender office in New York City, sort of the daily grind. It depicts that grind. But of course it's slow. Of course it's like super annoying because that's the life that is depicted of this guy. Anyway, Gentle, why did you find these books not so appealing? Why do you think that that is?
Okay, The Republic of Wine by Moyan. That's the
That's the book
what's it,
that won the Nobel Prize?
Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
Nobel Prize, right. Okay. It actually has too many bits and pieces that are not either separated enough or well enough articulated. So it's a basic novel
Hmm.
about a mine inspector who's got alcohol problems, let's put it that way, and also becomes involved with some really nasty cultural practices. But then there's these could be subplots, but they kind of intrude too much. But there's a person who is an amateur author who was writing to Mo Yan,
Hmm.
and it's as if he's writing about the environment that this mine inspector that Mo Yan is describing as fiction is real and is where he lives. And then there's the things that this amateur author is writing that are also submitted here. It's just, it doesn't fit together very well. I don't think it is about the translation.
So this is a substantive. Well, this is a really good substantive critique. And what I was saying is, I was thinking, okay, it sounds very interesting from the setup, but then when a writer infuses another amateur writer into the plot, my warning signs go up because that's usually sort of a device that can handle or where a writer may feel I can sort of explain and pull all these threads together by inventing a character who is surprise surprise a writer. Let's make him an amateur writer you
Yeah,
know
that way you don't have to do your best writing.
You can always say, well, it's the voice of this writer's intentionally amateurish because he's an amateur. And gentle, please, I'm reiterating, and everybody, please do either IM me privately and I'll compile it later, or send an email to slbookclub@dragster.com. Um, Now, Stella here is saying, Stella, you were reading The Kite Runner. I have it in my shelf. I still haven't touched that, but of course it's very well regarded, by Khaled Hosseini. Uh,
No, it was A Thousand Splendid Suns. Um, I don't know why I took the second book that he had written and became well known for, but
oh, sorry. Right. I'm sorry. I'm reading this wrong.
no,
Gentle
no, no,
says that. So you read
no.
A Thousand Splendid. Yeah, go ahead.
Right. I took the second one, because I always like to see, can a second novel be as good as a first novel? And I
Oh.
was so captivated with his writing and his style. I felt like I was in Afghanistan, and I felt like you could see Sharia law and how it was being implemented, women having no rights, and you were just going, oh my God, I'm going to turn the page. Please, someone kill this guy because he was so violent.
Hmm.
You just hated him. I
Hmm.
have never read a book that made me hate the antagonist as much as he did.
Hmm.
And that's why when you brought up, you were talking about ideas and themes and everything, and I was going, oh, hey, wait a minute. And I try to balance that with other non-English, non-American writers so that I can get a diversity. It's really interesting to read these authors from different cultures and feel like you're situated in some different world instead of one that we have to make up in our own mind. These people are bringing these strong cultural perspectives, and it really, I don't know. It was very enriching to read it. That's all I can say. That's why I was saying, and I'm trying to get a hold of. I've got to get down to reading some of Isabel Allende's books because I
Allende,
hear
yes.
all of
Hmm.
very, very well written. And, like the Chinese authors that you're recommending now, I've, I gave you those links about some of the Dutch authors and everything that have, it's interesting because I've been taking a spin on fantasy fiction and science fiction, but authors from different cultures writing in that genre of science fiction and fantasy fiction. How cool is that? Like the
Absolutely.
Chinese,
Yeah.
yeah, and I gave you that link, but I can resend that to
No,
you
no, I
about
have it.
the.
I have it here, right here. Let's put it in here, and then we talk about Isabel Allende. I just want to get everything in. Let me ask
Yeah.
you, Stella, when you read this Khalid Hosseini, A Thousand Splendid Suns. Now, were you? Now, this is in Afghanistan. What was the? Did you see a commonality? I mean, the good books. I would say. I mean, I'm generalizing. The great books that stay with us from other
Mhm,
cultures. They have
mhm.
they have a very distinct flavor of this culture, but they also succeed in showing us sort of the common humanity. Is that something that worked for you in this book?
You mean empathy
Well,
and
the common
and
humanity, this is in Afghanistan, and you're not from Afghanistan, or you don't have Afghani heritage, I don't
oh
think. But so I feel the books that stay with me, they they introduce me to a foreign culture, but they also at the same time, as I'm sort of marveling at the uniqueness of that culture, they also show me that at the basis we're all human beings.
yes, there was that quality. It seemed that because of Sharia law that what
Sharia law,
came
yeah.
off, yeah, it came off. You would see, let's say, men because they had the power and access to the resources, acts of kindness that you thought which would normally be, oh, well, they're helping out someone, he's helping out a woman, but there was always the underlying aspect that and pressure that they're going to make this young woman their wife.
Hmm.
And so you get this feeling of, oh my God, you think it's going to be a good, kindly, altruistic act, but then it's predicated on, well, you're a commodity. Women
Hmm.
are a commodity and an object. The hero and the heroine of the story do manage to embrace this more universalistic, he respects her and he's going to protect her and she's going to be able to survive. She actually goes on in the end of the story to become an educator at an education or an institute, because after Sharia law is overturned, then women have the right to go to school.
Hmm.
And so when you have this huge political change going on, then you see that women become more visible and less violence towards the women. And it's just, it, I suggest reading it because
Hmm.
it's captivating. That's
Hmm.
all I can say. I just turned, of course, I was reading it at work, because I had that ability to do what I was doing and also read,
Oh my God, I want
and
that job. Well, actually, that's
ah,
the job that I have now, hosting this book club. Authors are sending me their books, and I get to read them. Stella, I don't want to interrupt. I just want to make sure that I'm
keep it
reading
on.
all the chat
Yeah, please do, please
before
do.
it flies by. And
But that was just my,
so
yeah.
Khan is saying here about translation. Growing up in the U.S., other cultures were simply translated non-English writers when you were growing up. Um, and Quibble says something here. I don't know what it's in relation to, but this is actually something that is important. In lockdown, abuse will be rampant. So, uh, this is something actually that I think about all the time when people are complaining, oh, I don't get fresh bread. I mean, this is not outside of this discussion, but it's also related. Let's just always keep that in the back of our minds. If we're doing okay, uh, you know, if our biggest complaint is that my complaint would be that I don't have my walnuts in the morning because they're kind of sold out right now and I have to ship them, so I'm not ordering them, then I really don't have big problems. I have Second Life running, I have high-speed internet. But if you're stuck in lockdown with an abusive partner, then this is really a big problem. So let's just keep that in mind. Um, Stella also says, recollecting John Hershey's book called The White Lotus about the restrictive culture of China. Book was written in 1940. Um, and I think Whisper says, you finish every book, whether good, bad, or ugly. Lenny says, I'm struggled to finish, looking for a reason to like it. Well, Lenny, I would say the trick really is that the trick is you get something, you get a glimpse, even if it's bad, you get a glimpse into something that's bad, and then you can write something about it. You can write a page of a review. And also, really, I want to encourage everyone to keep in mind that if the pacing is slow, we are conditioned to very fast pacing through audiovisual entertainment. A book is something different. A book can be very slow paced, can be fast paced if you read a James Bond and Ian Fleming, an original. Um, Scrolling through the text, Go Speed. Hello, Go Speed. Good to see you. You can learn from bad examples. Exactly. That's why I also listen to bad music, my own. And Sandra is saying, I find that a big problem I have with reading books of other cultures is just not understanding the culture. I like reading fantasy, but when you read fantasy, it's understood by the author that they have to bring the reader along and seamlessly explain the entire world and customs to you as they go. If you were just reading a book by an author for another country that they wrote in their own voice, you won't really necessarily understand all the intricacies. Sandra, that's a good point. I feel like that was part of a problem I had with the Kite Runner, which I didn't finish. Now, this is a good point that Sandra makes, and I wonder if people here have a solution for this challenge. I mean, I have one. I would offer you one, and what I would offer here is take it as a vacation into this country. If you go to a different country on vacation, and you're like me, you never go to a McDonald's. You always go to the local little shack and you just eat what's there. And there's a certain risk to it. And I'll tell you, when I was in Turkey in 1988, I don't want to bore people with stories about having diarrhea for 5 days, but here I said it. We were invited
Diarrhea.
in a little shack, and it was wonderful. And we didn't understand Turkish; they didn't speak German, but we exchanged water and we exchanged köfte, these meatballs, and we had a wonderful time. Unfortunately, the water was pretty bad, and then the issues ensued. But that was a glimpse into that culture, and I didn't understand any of it, frankly. But we shared something. So a book, it's not a perfect comparison here, but I think a book can be that glimpse. And you're not being tested on it, Sandra. You're not being tested on on a university level, like what does it say about the out of Afghanistan in the 1940s. And if you're so inclined, I would recommend a book called Land of Aching Hearts, which is a nonfiction book about Afghanistan. And then yeah, and footnotes, and there's also sometimes like book club example questions now these days, and there's a lot of auxiliary information. Stella, one sec, I'll let you speak in a second. I want to make sure that I don't miss other texts here. Leandra says some people in some cultures, especially women, are always in lockdown. Very good point here. Um, Pure other culture. If that is their culture, the violence is surely normative. Well, that's a problem of sometimes of repressive regimes, as we know. And repressive regimes, they can happen anywhere. As a matter of fact, I recommend a book called It Can't Happen Here about a totalitarian regime in the United States by Sinclair Lewis, a book written in 1935. I'll send it to you, Quibble. But you're right, of course, here. When violence is normative, that doesn't mean it's good. Cultural differences are fascinating to me, especially in sci-fi. Aloha Shohu says, and Quibble says, I miss going to the McDonald's in Marrakesh. Might have been interesting. That's actually a good point. I just lied. I go to the McDonald's in Ireland because they have vinegar. Now we got completely off topic. How did we get from other cultures to McDonald's? Uh, Even if it is a struggle, would we stop reading Gabriel Garcia Marquez? That's that's a really good point. And again, David Foster Wallace, 1,200 pages. Um, Now, uh, where was I? So, McDonald's in Hawaii have Simon. Well, that I do know. That I know. We're in Hawaii frequently. Well, not now, obviously. Behind me on the big screen is a website that Stella sent me, and it's the 10 non-English fantasy authors to add to your reading list. And one we already covered, Liu Xixing or Xijing Liu, The Three-Body Problem, absolutely stunning. Here's a guy, Pierre Grimbert, French fantasy author who has won the Prix Auxonne for the best French language fantasy novel. And Luo Chang Hong, and I'm butchering these names, showing that the modern era does not have a monopoly on good storytelling. Luo Guangchong is believed to have lived in the 14th century and is believed to have written the new popular novel Three Kingdoms, which is part historical novel, part mythical romance like George R.R. Martin. The novel follows hundreds of characters, but at the heart of the story are three power blocks struggling for dominance. Now that is interesting. Silvana De Mari, I've never heard of these people, and that's absolutely awesome, and I'll compile them all in the reading list. Alexei Pehov from Russia, Andriy Snare Magnusson, Iceland, Licia Troisi, Italy, Maria Turchaninov, and don't worry about it, I'll put this all in our list. Alex Ut and Lars Vasa Johansson. Other cultures. Yeah, other cultures bring us closer to our own humanity, and they bring us closer to, well, obviously the other cultures. Um, Now, what are you guys interested in reading? Now, as I said, one of the themes here of the book club is to bring people back to reading. And I found that so cool when Quibble asked me, what book I would recommend. I really love that. So if people are here that haven't read anything for some time or haven't really found anything that grabbed them, please don't, I'm not going to call you out here like, raise your hand if the last book you've read was something in 10th grade. Not at all. But let's do this. What are you interested in subject matter wise? And maybe I can find a book for you. And I'll also put it in the book club reading list. Buffy, I said this earlier. Buffy, you want to chime in voice? What are you reading? So I'm going to call Buffy out. I know because Buffy's a good friend of mine. I can call her out. And on my current reading list, I'm going to start until people warm up. What am I interested in?
Did I hear my name called?
Yes, Buffy.
Hello.
What are you reading? What are you excited about? Don't tell me
I
the Second Life homepage.
no. I discovered an author called Bryce Courtney.
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's South African, and the book I'm reading is called Whitethorn,
Mm-hmm.
and it's basically follows him as a young child in an orphanage, and then following up through during the time of the Boer War. So he's English and raised with all the Africans, and it's very interesting to see the other side um, of the Boer War. You
Mm-hmm.
know, because of the white people there that were taking over the land. So this it really perked my interest in learning more about the Boer War because I really don't know anything about it.
Can you put
So I
this
would
into the local chat and also IM me privately so I can put it in the reading? See, Buffy, we're talking here about all this culture, and I knew you were here, my brightest student that I've ever had, and but you're kind of sleeping here a little bit, and then I call on you, and you have one of the most interesting books. I mean, to me, anyways. So this is.
sure.
Do you know anything about that the war and what is the name of the author? Just put it into chat maybe. Let's see here. Bryce Courtenay Whitethorn. And Peter is chiming in as well. And again, we'll collect these in bookshop.org/store. What is it? What is the link? Somebody have the link? Bookshop.org/shop/Dragster Reads. That's it. Um, I didn't see this earlier. Gentle was saying Noble House by James Clavell. He's the author of Shogun. Yeah, stories about business in Hong Kong of the 1960s. So that's going to be a long reading list this week. Peter says, just bought Heinrich Böll nicht nur zur Weihnachtszeit, Christmas not just once a year. Now, Heinrich Böll is one of my favorite authors, and I think I'm gonna post a picture of my Heinrich Böll part of the shelf. Heinrich Böll, and maybe Peter, you can quickly get a Wikipedia link in English language, and feel free to paste it into the screen behind me because I think Heinrich Böll is for our American and English speaking audience someone to discover or rediscover. Somebody who is a post-war German author. Of course, in Germany there was I don't know if you are aware of it. There was a period of time where culture didn't really thrive in the 30s and 40s for various reasons, actually for one main reason, um, because of the regime that ran things at the time. And so the development in German literature and music was really rudely interrupted. And so we refer to Günter Grass, Heinrich Böll, these people as post-war German literature, and these are really, really important authors. So Heinrich Böll, um, is just incredible. It is like the German John Steinbeck, I guess. That's what I would say. Um, Peter has the link here. You can put the link into the overhead screen. Um, it gets complicated here navigating the conversation with all these wonderful comments. Let me put this in here. Uh, so Bryce Courtney Whitethorn is what Buffy's saying. Buffy, what is the name of the book, please? Waiowamo says she's enjoying Sharks in the Time of Saviors by Kawhi Strong Washburn. Now, this is very interesting, Waiowamo, why you say this, because Kawhi Strong Washburn, I have actually contacted him to come on this show, and we are figuring out a date. So this is someone who has expressed interest to come here, and it's just a matter of logistics. So that's going to be awesome. Um, Sharks in the Time of Saviors is about family with differing beliefs and how these contrasts are resolved. I, of course, have a strong connection with Hawaii because I live with two Hawaii, well, one full Hawaiian and a half Hawaiian. Um, I also call them my American refugees, my wife and my son. They live with me. I let them stay here. Um, and yeah, so Heinrich Böll um, is one of Germany's, I'm going to read this here real quick, foremost post World War II writers. Um, he was part of the Wehrmacht, and he actually served in World War II, although he did refuse to join the Hitler Youth, which was not easy to do. So his writing is just a very very strong moral and ethical backbone. I mean, if I start going into plots, Billard halb 10. I don't know what the English translation was. Peter, you can look it up. That's one of my favorite books. Oh, the clown here. I'm gonna look at the clown. Yeah. So I'll put this in. I'll put this together in the reading list. Yeah, as we're coming to a close of the hour, I encourage everyone again to let's do this. Why don't you guys put a theme into the chat so I can find this book for you. The email for the show is you can click on the big board. It's slbookclub@dragster.com, and then I will compile it in the bookshop.org list, bookshop.org/shop/Dragster Reads. For next week, we have a special guest next week, and we have the first giveaway. I'm camming in for the streaming audience. It's right here on the floor is a book by the author, Critical Point. Now, this author, her real name is S.L. Huang, for real. Okay, that's her real name. And S.L. Huang is a wonderful author. She was a self-published author, and she will talk about self-publishing. She will talk about how to get from self-publishing to actually signing a deal and not giving up. Um, I mean, it's not. I already talked to her about this on the first show a little bit. It's not a argument against self-publishing. It's her journey that she will share, and I'm really excited about that to give her a little bit more time on the floor. So her latest book is Critical Point. It's a trilogy about it's very fast-paced, thriller type stuff. It's really straightforward thriller. There is there's no, I don't want to say there's no deep philosophical uh, core here. That might be that might really be a little bit derogatory. But the cool thing is that um, this is so unapologetically thriller stuff that I totally admire. It's like a real good country song that is just totally country. Okay, so it has explosions, it has conspiracies, it has very hard-boiled characters, and it has LA as a backdrop, and as you know, cities and locations are characters. So this is a fantastic series, the Cass Russell series, and we will be giving away three of these books. I have to figure out how we're going to give them away. Maybe we'll get five, but we'll get three at least. Okay? Either Critical Point, Zero Sum Game, I don't know if it's around here, or Null Set, the trilogy. So if you haven't read the first one, you can get the first one. The publisher has agreed to give away three. I'm going to convince him to give away five, but you have to be here on site at the book club. This is not a giveaway for the streaming audience, okay? And we'll do this now from every time um, an author comes on, and I will pressure the publishers. Quibble says get the publisher to sign him. This is a really good idea, and that's actually really what I'm thinking about. But with lockdown, it's the logistics are difficult because they're not in the same space. Um, so yeah, I can't promise that because they're being shipped out straight from the warehouse. A book plate, it's a good idea if they have it. We'll see, but it would be really cool to have like a personal little thing in there. Um, Let me make sure that I don't forget the looking at the chat here. Now let's see here. I saw that I'm missing some stuff here in the chat. I thought that Sidearm was saying something about fiction not being allowed. I didn't understand what that means. Um, Quibble says uh, maybe dependent can the reader swim? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by that. Please specify. And Drexler, can you make the online book list searchable? No, I can't. The bookshop.org is a new venture that I like. They're not sponsoring this show, but I have approached them if they wanted to. Bookshop.org is a US retailer that positions itself as the anti-Amazon, and they give 75% of their profits to local bookstores and they promote local events. And you can have sort of an affiliate program. So if people go through this store and then they buy your book, then you get a percentage or you give that percentage to the independent store. So I'm not making any money off it at all. It's a really convenient way that could be done on Goodreads, I guess, to keep track of what we're talking about, right? So yeah, Stella, it's like it's they have everything that is available in the US through Amazon. They don't have stuff available from other countries, sometimes from smaller stores, but they're working on it. It's a very new venture. And so I just found it very convenient to keep track of what we're talking about. So every book club has the date, and then the date shows the books that we talk about. So you just have to look at the lists um, from those dates, right? Quibble, I can't follow your text. I'm sorry, you have to put this all in one text. We also have a indie panel coming up. Speaking of independent publishers, these three books there on the sofa I'm camming in now is from Blue Moose Publishing. Very small indie publisher, Blue Moose. If somebody can look them up um, and type it in chat, that'd be great. Look up Blue Moose. Also, this is Lantana Publishing that I'm camming in right now by Nadine Kadan. These are picture books, also from a different culture, from Syria. Blue Moose, yes. Um, and let me look. Peter mentioned The Lost Honor of Katharina Blum, which is actually a good movie. So The Lost Honor of Katharina Blum, uh, that is a movie. Is this a Fassbinder movie? I forgot. No, Schlöndorff. Yeah. Um, this is a quick read. Um, and really important. That's actually a nice introduction to Heinrich Böll. Some of the other stuff is stylistically maybe challenging, and I haven't read the translation. I mean, to read it in German is really awesome. Anyways, any last words from the audience here? And Stella, yes, this is Blue Moose Books.
Thanks very much, Drexy.
Is that you, Buffy?
Yeah, I'm just thanking you.
I'm thanking you for suggesting a really, really cool book that immediately resonates with me, title-wise and plot-wise. What was the war that this book depicts? I didn't. You were breaking up a little bit.
Oh, the Boer War.
Hmm. And what do you know about the Boer War? What have you? Is any was anything did anything stuck with you about the Boer War? What
Um,
can you tell us of people who don't know what it is?
well, from what I've learned is that the English whites came in and took over the land and then settled it, and the blacks that were living there from the tribes decided that they wanted their land back.
Hmm.
So there was an uprising.
So it was an uprising. It was uh, a colony of Britain at the time already, right?
Right.
Hmm. And there were, I think, there were a bunch of uprisings around this time, turn of the century, the last century. Um, this is fascinating because this is something I always wax philosophically about how colonial everything is tied back to colonialism, all the problems we have today. And then I realize I have absolutely no factual knowledge about like even sort of the states that were the former German colonies, and I go like, damn, and I put it on top of my reading stack. Like, damn, I really gotta read up on this stuff. Uh, Waioamu, I'm assuming you're from Hawaii. There is actually also this is slightly related. Just want to throw this out there. There's a fantastic book called Overthrown about United States imperial behavior, and it actually starts with Hawaii. I gotta look up the author. I forgot. I was just looking at you, thinking about Hawaii, and Stephen Kinzer is the name. Stephen Kinzer. There you go. Karen von Blixen's book, Out of Africa. Yeah, Michener is always. Everybody loves Michener. Speaking of Hawaii, and I'm gonna wrap up the show now. Uh, Big thanks to. Let me do my thank you list. Thank you guys for showing up and making this so super enjoyable and letting me speak. That's wonderful. As a borderline narcissist, I love it. Sidearm was saying something. Sidearm, you were. I don't know. I don't see you on my screen here. Keeps disappearing. Sidearm, please put that in again. What you were just mentioning about the book club, the reading list. So big thanks to you guys for coming and enjoying it. Please spread the word. Come up with ideas. This is all about you guys. I'm just a facilitator. I really don't want to come across as I'm sort of occupying the conversation here. I'm used to grabbing the mic if the mic is not used by someone, but I really want to navigate the conversation such that everybody feels they get their voices heard. And also, please, it's very important for me to that people know I'm not an academic. I'm not even a professional book reviewer or an amateur book reviewer for that matter. So I don't want people to get like, intimidated or something like, oh my God, Drexter reads so much. I don't have anything to say. This is something that I just want to stress, you know, this is not This is not a an in crowd where we're all like, "Oh, did you read?" I always feel like when Peter says Böll, then I say, oh yeah, Böll. I have a whole shelf full of Böll, and then when I say this, I feel like, oh my God, somebody may think like Dragster's like a total snob. He's all like, oh, Böll and Grass next to Thomas Mann and whatnot. Um, so I just want to assure everybody here that I just enjoy reading. That's it, and I don't look down on people have not who are not, you know, whose room is not full of smelly old books. I want to share this love with you guys. Exactly, Stella. That's really the agenda here. Inspiring to read. And so, thanks everyone. Kronos, AJ, Sidearm, Tura. Oh, Tura came in here. Kitty, Misty, Luca, Noy, Zach, Go Speed, Strawberry. I think Strawberry is probably AFK Quibble. Sandra, thank you. Good point here with the with finishing books and that kind of thing. Con, Emma, two Emmas. Wow. Becky, Peter, Waiоamo, and Aloha, two Hawaiians here. Thurn and Buffy. Did I forget everyone? Oh yeah, Fluffy. Well, Fluffy's always away. Oops, he just reappeared. Big thanks to Marianne McCann who customized this build. A big thanks to Patch Linden and the Mole team, the entire Mole team. I forgot Whisper in the back there. Sorry, Whisper and Zach. Forgot you guys. Big thanks to the Moles. Big thanks to the governance team over at Linden Lab. Don't forget this happens every Wednesday. The big marquee events, as they say, are usually the first Wednesday of the month with additional stuff because people really want to come here. The authors are like, I'm on lockdown and I hate Zoom. I hate reading my own stories. Can I be an avatar? Please, please book me on your show. Um, Not all of them. Some go like, what is this? I don't do video interviews. I said, well, this is not a video interview. Um, so next week again, SL Huang. And let me throw up um, the link here. We forgot to talk about Isabel Allende. I apologize, Stella. Isabel Allende, my wife is totally into Isabel Allende. I think we might have almost all of her books. Isabel Allende is definitely someone to talk about. You have any like one book, Stella, that you are reading or have read by Isabel Allende that you would recommend? And I'll put them into the list as well. So here I just brought up next week a conversation with SL Huang in SL. All right. And that's it, folks. I'm going to end the stream here. And this is archived on my channel and also on the Linden Lab official Second Life channel. There's going to be a playlist curated by Strawberry Singh, I believe her name. No, her name is Linden now. I forgot. She got married. She's even here. Where Kitty says, where can I find out more information? Let me end the stream and we can casually talk a little bit more, and then I have to run and prepare this list. Let me answer those questions. I'm ending the stream. Actually checking one more time if there are questions from the stream. Nope. Cool. And we're going to end the stream. We'll see you next week.